Techbusters proudly brought to you by Ericsson.
Good evening and welcome to Techbusters, your common sense guide to technology. I'm Tony Shapshak. This is the great Aki Anastasio, who has just returned from Berlin and the big IFA event.
Well, it's been a couple of weeks actually, but it's been interesting. I tell you, it's really grown, that show, and it's the second biggest technology show in the world after CES, which happens at the beginning of the year. But I must say, I saw some very interesting stuff there. The new Huawei mid-range phone, which is fantastic. Lenovo launched some interesting technologies. There was a new Fitbit technology. I must tell you about the Fitbit guy. It was so interesting. But yeah, a whole range of different stuff that was just great to be there. And of course, Berlin is such a gorgeous city. You've been there so many times yourself, eh?
Indeed.
Yeah.
Not as gorgeous as you, big boy.
Well, exactly. It takes a lot to get as gorgeous as me. It's a lot of Botox helps, of course. Following your cue, which is great. Thanks for that advice on the doctor for the Botox. Remember to join in that conversation. Use the hashtag Twitter, not hashtag Toby needs more Botox, but it's hashtag Techbusters, or follow us at Techbusters SA and at CNBC Africa. But before we get carried away with being so vain on the show, we don't use Botox. You can see that, can you? Let's take a look at what's coming up on the show tonight.
Tonight on Techbusters, Aki heads off to IFA in Berlin for the world's biggest technology show. We chat to FNB about their Innovation Month, and Toby interviews Viv Goldstein from General Electric about new projects to drive disruptive innovation in Africa. We keep our finger on the technological pulse tonight on Techbusters.
Hello and welcome to Berlin. This is IFA 2016 at Europe's biggest technology show. It's all happening here and we're expecting to see some really exciting things here. OLED TVs have been really quite big this year and we're expecting to see all the big manufacturers extending on their range. The show is also going to be about smartphones. Sony, Huawei launching the new Nova range, and we were quite impressed with the quality of devices in the mid-range phone sector. And it's really interesting to see how the prices are settling down, the quality is increased, and it's all win-win for the consumer at the end of the day. So I'm sitting here with Lars Hinge from Yamaha, and in the background you'll see a very interesting piano. Lars is playing on his app over here, and this is a connected system. It's connected to a hi-fi system, the Yamaha system. What exactly does this technology do?
The technology is the connectivity between the Yamaha music instruments like this piano, the disc piano series, and Yamaha MusicCast, our network system to stream the music in each room in your house.
And the piano plays everything automatically at the moment. What is it using inside to do this?
The servo motors works with the keys and plays directly the piano. So the intensity of the pianist who plays the piano is directly the intensity the piano plays by himself.
And it's all done via app control, and I noticed that's one of the biggest things that Yamaha is focused on, is really controlling everything from a device.
Yes, from each device you want. The controlling app is Yamaha MusicCast app. You can control everything.
So this is a 3D printed bike, the world's first mass-produced 3D printed bike. So main part is right here, right here, right here. It's a lug parts. The lug parts is made of 3D printer. Material is titanium. And we are connected the 3 lug parts using the carbon tube. Once we are going to receive your body size in my website, so we are going to customize the frame size for your body size. Print time is just only 24 hours, but we have to join the parts and we have to paint up the finishing. So the regular lead time is around 20 days. His name is the Tiprom. He is a home robot with the projection function. His body built it in the projector, and He can change your home wall to the display. He can play the movie, he can play the music, and he can download in the many different type of the internet content from the web server. His head is built in the smartphone chipset inside. Once you are going to define to him time, place, and content, he is automatically moving out from the charging station to the right place and show up the right content. For example, you are going to define to him 7 a.m. morning news in your bedroom. So every morning 7 a.m. he is automatically running out from the charging station to your bedroom and to show up the morning news onto the ceiling of your bed.
Health has been really big at IFA 2016. We've seen the new Fitbit range being launched, and they've really moved into accessorizing the technology, so not making it look like a fitness device, so adding the fashion element to it so it appeals to a broad range of consumers. And of course, the other health trackers that we've seen in the market, tracking your health, making sure that you're healthy, and you as a person being responsible for your own health.
Hi, I'm James Parr, co-founder and CEO of Fitbit, and you're watching Techbusters.
Toby, the innovation was amazing, and it's interesting that Fitbit is going through a very interesting shift in their business, more focused on the quality of their sensors, more focused on the data that they're collecting. And I was amazed to see how the game has been lifted on smartphone devices. The new Huawei range of devices, their mid-range range of devices, where they're actually placing such a massive focus on the camera. We've seen this. All of the manufacturers today, it's about the camera. This is what Generation Z and Generation Y is doing. And how cool was that piano that plays all on its own, the Yamaha player? And amazing televisions. The televisions have come of such an age. The quality of TV that we're seeing is just beautiful.
The screen technology really has taken a leap forward. But I must say, the piano plays better piano than you would.
Well, I can't play the piano to save my life. It's a fact. Yasaman Hajibashi is the Chief Data Officer for Barclays Africa, and to find out more about what Barclays is doing and what Yasaman's passion is with Africa, joining us in the studio. Lovely to have you with us. Thank you for coming through. Yasaman, big data officers, this is what you do, and it's kind of one of those top 10 future jobs of the future. Explain to us what a data scientist does.
So a data scientist, essentially, it's still a very, apparently to Harvard Business Review or Harvard Business School, it's the 21st century, sexiest job on earth. One of the highest technical jobs, being paid out there in the industry right now. It brings together two practices, the practice of computer science and the practice of statistics and math. However, what makes it very, very, I think, interesting is the art of storytelling on top of that, of how the work out of the scientific field is actually driving value into the world. And into the world for us, at least as an organization, we care about our customers, we care about our clients. So when we hire data scientists to work in the field of big data, to understand the information that we've gathered over the years and continue gathering every second, what can you do with that? How can you drive, new innovation, new services, new experience for our customers? They need to be able to tell the story. Before they go into the storytelling, they try to understand our business problems. So what is our business trying to achieve in the next few years? What does that mean in terms of customer pain points that we're currently facing and customer opportunities that we can go out into the market and make a difference?
Yes. Now tell us about Africa Success, because that is your passion.
Oh, yes.
What is
absolutely.
Africa Success all about, and how are you driving it?
So it started with myself. Every big corporation, you have to care more than just, driving business. Obviously, taking, value back to your shareholders. What's also the bigger picture that we want to drive with our capabilities, talent, skill set, resources. I visited a school in Soweto. It was a few months back, here close to actually the Gauteng area, and it just hit me because I was standing in front of 100 kids, and they were all straight A students, and we were there to distribute solar lamps to them, just as part of our citizenship agenda, doing good for our ecosystems. And then I realized these kids are driven, they're trying to get straight A's. And a lot of times what you learn in life is drive is the number one prerequisite to make it into someone successful in your lifetime. If these kids are all getting straight A's, which is equivalent to being driven, how come not all of them are going to go through college? How come not all of them are going to actually graduate from college, get jobs, and, and become financially successful people in this continent? So I brought that back as a question in my brain, and I was just like, how can you use some of our sort of skill set to go back in these communities and change this picture? How can we understand what are some of the behaviors correlated with financially successful people? That I'm curious about actual behaviors. Did this person do reading? You know, what type of reading? Did they have a role model? What type of role model? What type of friends did they have? Were they competitive in sports? What type of sports did they do? And this is what we're trying to capture with the global survey, and I want to take it back, utilizing existing technologies such as chatbots, etc., to engage with these youth and try to influence them to stay on those driven trajectories in their lifetime.
What is your advice to other women out there? We need more women like yourself in the industry, but they just simply aren't enough. What are we doing wrong, and what is your advice that we need to do to change to bring more women into roles such as yours?
I think you should probably focus more on the customer stories behind it, the innovation possibilities behind it. What really was very important to me, or was my key to success, was I have always been a very creative person. I was always full of ideas. And what I really enjoyed is actually collaboration with other colleagues inside big corporations, but also outside of the company, by building my network, my relationships, to bring those ideas back into our company. And I think the good news is that these days, you know, the cultural mindset in all of these companies is changing. People actually want women to come in, so the doors have opened. So if you're innovative and you have been shied away from, you know, coming in just because you thought there are glass ceilings, they are being broken. So please come in and just drive your idea through, and, you know, do it through collaboration. I think women have shown they're very, very good collaborators. That's what I've seen in my lifetime, and, you know, having worked in different companies, and that's your biggest strength. It can get you to very, very big horizons.
Yasmin, thank you for joining us. Now, you've heard a lot about the banks and how banks are innovating, and fintech and all of these things happening around banking, and some people even saying banks won't exist in 10 years' time. Well, who knows? But one of the banks that's really innovating at a rapid pace, and has been so for a while, is FNB. And joining us in the studio is Peter Alkamer, who's the CIO for FNB Business Banking. Peter, nice to have you with us in the studio. Tell us about what you guys are doing with your Innovation Month, as I would call it.
Absolutely, and I mean, Ernst & Young have just released a report, and talent is one of the top 5 drivers of banking in developing economies. We've got a partnership with We Think Code, which is a very innovative source of software engineering skills that we are very excited about, and offers this free 2-year education program for anyone from the age of 17 to 35, and means that it complements our traditional source of skills from the tertiary education environment. So we're going to plug that capability into a number of initiatives that we're running in September and through early October. And the most important one of those really is this Code Fest. We ran 2 of them very successfully last year, and we're expanding in the model that we'll be running this year. And we're also doing a huge component around learning and enabling this talent in our own organization to make sure that, you know, these wonderful topics that we learn about from Singularity University and from the market and all of this fun, interesting stuff that the world is doing, that we can then enable those skills to come into the organization. We're also driving a huge amount of sharing, and we've got lots of cool stuff, but we're a big organization. And it's important to create an environment in which people can come and learn about that and enhance the products and services across the rest of the First Rand group, of which FNB is the retail component. So in addition to that, we're going to have the 3rd Africa DevOps Day, where there's a collaboration with the other banks, which I think is very important. And if you look at a lot of solutions that are coming through around blockchain, for example,
yes,
this does require collaboration in the industry. The fundamental nature of a distributed public ledger, which has all the ingredients of being a huge disruptor in our environment, requires that we are talking to each other as much as possible. And then I think on top of that, remaining as competitive as we need to. So CodeFest for us is that trigger in the IT and the technology skills world for us at FNB and across the First Rand Group. Westbank and RMB are part of that as well. Bringing together over 250 developers for a 48-hour coding marathon, where we understand from business what are the problems that they want us to solve, and this idea of putting all of these skills in a fishbowl type of environment, you know, creates that focus around the best practices and ways of working to achieve cool outcomes for business to take to their customers.
That is absolutely fascinating. As the CIO of FNB's Business Banking, what keeps you awake at night?
Aki, it's about balancing priorities. So we also have to run a big bank. We have to make sure that all of those capabilities, those architectures, those rails are working effectively. If you look across security and making sure that we keep our customer data private, etc. All of those are core run the bank requirements. And we have a limited skill set. So back to the topic of talent, as long as we're prioritizing those skills and we're not burning fuel on topics that are potentially wasting some of the capacity, then I think we're optimally positioned to maintain and run effectively what we've got and then innovate for the wave of evolution that we're chasing. And I think for me it comes down to leadership. We're placed in positions of leadership because we know when to make the tough decisions. We know how to reallocate resources to be responsive but equally focused on the efficiencies and the drivers of the core of our business.
Absolutely fascinating. Peter, thanks for joining us.
Viv Goldstein, you're the Director of Innovation for GE, and you've just opened a very large Africa Innovation Center.
Yep.
Why here?
Because this is such an important region, this is such an important country to us. You know, GE has actually been in South Africa for over 100 years. This was our first non-US office. And it's important, it's an area for growth, it's an area for innovation. And what we want to do is help, I think, in three key pillars. We want to help in building capability and capacity. We want to help in technology, and really we want to help in funding so that we can get SMEs in a better place, we can get our employees in a better place, we can get the country in it's already in a good place, but how can we make it even better? How can we help drive disruptive innovation?
And give us a few examples of the things that you're looking at.
Okay, so I'm going to go global and tell you some global stories. What I do, I'm responsible for really driving a culture change across the company. And with a co-founder, we've launched an entirely new approach, which is actually much bigger than an initiative. It's actually a mindset called FastWorks. And what FastWorks does, it brings together the speed and efficiency of a startup with the scale and resources of GE. And to do that, we started back in 2012 and said, how can we bring better products to market faster? How can we act more like a startup? And kind of like the rest is history. That's what we started in 2012. And over the last 3 years, we've literally been experimenting our way into it. And the African Innovation Center is going to be a great place to exhibit the kind of behaviors that FastWorks sets out.
I think that the kind of innovation we do in Africa is innovation out of necessity, or frugal innovation.
Right.
What are those? Do you have any thoughts around that and how that's being applied in GE?
Right, so to me, if you have a problem that money can solve, it's not really a problem. And what we are working with project teams and businesses is to say, let's start small. Let's invest very small amounts of money to test and learn. So it's about following that startup mindset that says, let's really discover what is the customer problem that we're really trying to solve for. Let's innovate a solution, but in that solution are going to be some assumptions. How can we test those assumptions really quickly, really cheaply, and learn? So let's do some very low fidelity testing, which is what frugal innovation is.
Indeed.
And then once we get some answers, we either continue down the path, we pivot, or sometimes we even stop. And then once we know where we are, then we will invest more and more amounts of money in. What that enables us to do is to put what we call position capital. So you have lots of small bets in lots of places, and you continue to test and learn. And when you start seeing you're moving from discovery to customer validation, then and only then can you move into launch and then into scale. And many multinationals don't do it that way. They apply vast sums of money, go straight into scale, and that's the complete opposite of what frugal innovation is. So I'm a huge believer in frugal innovation. It's about testing and learning.
It is, and I really like that phrase of yours. If you could throw money at the problem, it's not a problem.
It's not, no.
And it's very true in Africa in terms of how we have to solve pressing problems. That's my definition of innovation. Innovation is solving real problems, and these are the things you're trying to identify, right?
Absolutely. We've gone from a FastWorks point of view, there's a couple of things that I think are really interesting. One is how we've grown from when we started, when we launched FastWorks. And the original intent was to bring more new products to market faster with a higher degree of success. So how could you solve for a better customer outcome faster? So we did two things. One was we launched a governance, or what we called a growth board. So similar to the startup world of VC boards, where you apply this metered funding. The second thing we did was we realized we were onto something huge. And as part of that something huge, we looked to change the mindset of the entire organization. So we brought three things together. We brought what we call the GE beliefs, which is the way people think and act. And that's moved from things such as a command and control environment to empower and inspire. It's about stay lean to go fast, back to frugal innovation. We did that. We launched FastWorks across the entire organization. What FastWorks does is it gives people a toolkit and some principles and a framework to follow. And the third thing we did was we changed the way we hold people accountable. And that's what we call PD, or performance development at GE. So rather than the annual appraisal, it's all the time. We give insights all the time. Those three things are leading us to this entire culture change. So that was one of the first things that we worked on. But the second piece, and where this is now growing to, is how do you actually grow new? To go back to your point, how do you solve some of the toughest problems? And so we're now using that FastWorks approach to say, how do you create new markets? How do you create new business models? So rather than coming in with we got an idea of the solution, we now go all the way back and say, what are some of the actual challenges that marketplace is facing? And then we journey map a customer experience all the way through. And we identify where some of those critical pain points are. And that's where we start to bring these really big new solutions to market.
So Viv, it's a way of bringing the agility of a startup into the size of a global multinational.
Totally. And that's culture change. And other organizations we've seen are really good at creating a process. That process doesn't work on its own. You have to bring the culture along with it. And my co-founder is HR, I'm commercial, and that's where the magic happens. So the magic of real growth is when you bring culture and innovation together, and that's why we're seeing such a huge change across the company, really. And it's not just for growth, but it's for something you do every single day. So whether I'm working on a new NPI, new product introduction, whether I'm working on a new business model, or even if I'm creating a pitch for one of our leaders, always start with, what's the outcome you're actually trying to solve for?
It's a great way to solve a problem.
It is, isn't it? And it's so simple.
Great stuff. Thank you, Viv.
You're so welcome.
Well, the gadget this week that we're reviewing is a modem, and this is called the Fritzbox. It's a German company, and this is the Fritzbox 7490. It's distributed by a company called Knowology here in South Africa. And I've been playing around with this modem, and this is an ADSL modem. But what's interesting about it, and when I saw the technology in Germany, and this is, as I mentioned, a German company, these guys are massive in Germany, I didn't quite understand what they meant was by squeezing every bit of data out of your line. And when I plugged this into my home, I've got a 10 meg line at home, I was averaging about 7.5 megs speed-wise coming through my router. And I plugged this in, and all of a sudden I got an extra 2. And I don't know what these guys do, but you literally, from here, you plug it into another little box that they've got, and then it goes into your phone line. And they're using some kind of technology that just squeezes the best out of your modem to give you the more increased speed. So that's the one thing. The other thing that it's got the ability to have phone lines as well, that you can do VoIP calls and plug your phone in and use VoIP on your system, which is really, really cool. And just the menu user face and the user experience that I got, that you're able to plug a lot of other things like connected devices within your home, like lights, for example. And the way it's laid out is pretty cool. It's not a cheap modem, it's an expensive modem, but the money that you pay and the performance that it delivers is well worth it. So check them out, distributed locally by Knowology. It's the Fritzbox 7490. Check out this month's edition of Stuff Magazine. My homie, my bro, Toby Shapshak's the editor-in-chief, and they've got some great deals. Hey, what did you
Indeed.
buy this month? You bought something.
I bought one of those laptops, it's a 5,000 Rand Acer laptop. You get a 50% discount using WeChat. You scan it with the phone and the app, and Incredible delivers it for free the next day. And I bought it for my housekeeper's son who turned 18, and it's a great deal. It's a $5,000 laptop for half price. Cell phones, a variety of other useful things, headphones, and I really think this could potentially be the future of publishing. You used to be able to do this in the very wide Scandinavian countries where you could send an SMS short code and buy something like a printer. I don't know why the printers were always on sale, but it's this kind of e-commerce that's starting to roll out, and a company like WeChat that people mistakenly think is a messaging system. It's not a competitor to WhatsApp. It's more a competitor to PayPal or something else. It's a payment mechanism. So I'm very pleased to see how people are willing to adapt to a new way of doing things.
Yeah. No, that's really interesting. Thanks, Toby. Cheers. While he talks on and on and on, I mean, we've got things to do. I mean, he could sit and talk about this all day, but I've got things to do. We'll see you next week. Thanks for joining us on Techbusters.